So now you know. Okay, I want to thank our sponsor, Jackie Gans, in honor of the 3 weeks. And he already told me that the week of his daughter's wedding, he's giving a big kiddush in shul. It works. I don't know if that includes cheesecake or not. I imagine it does. Shabbos. But I want to thank Reb Mordechai Appel, who comes in with new chidushim more often than Apple. Saltikra Appel, Apple.
Them is my mother's mother, Leah Bas. Leah Bas was just my mother just got up from Shiva yesterday. So Shem Shiva Aliyah, it should be a schusu and a shmasa. And a lot of what I'm saying is definitely matim. It's definitely befitting for her. So this is an Indian that I've been working on for a number of years. And there's always like another product that gets added, another product that gets added. And last year I saw another beautiful product, which we'll talk about. We'll try and initially I said this in a shir, which took an hour and a half, but we're going to concise it. If the person was on an elevator, you're on an elevator, and in business is something that's called an elevator pitch. That means that you're going to get 30 seconds with the person to be able to try and have a conversation, spark a little bit of interest about what you're doing. And that's really all you got, because the second you get to the top floor and everyone gets off of the elevator, you might never see the person again, once you've caught their interest. So you're there, you're a shliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you want to tell the person, you're excited, you're bursting with energy of Yiddishkeit, you want to tell them it's a fellow Jew, and you want to tell them this is the quintessential pasuk in the Torah, something that can uptight Yiddishkeit in 1 second. What's it going to be? So the Medrash tells us.
And you're not? You already have the answer?
So if you look in Yaakov, Nagdama Ein Yaakov, written by the Kaisiv, right, the son of the Machaber, he writes Matzasi Kasu b'Shem Medrash u'bikashtiv lemitzasiu v'kol shisasidri. I found in the Medrash. I don't know where the Medrash is. It's the Medrash Pliya. That's where it's brought. He doesn't know where the Medrash is, but this is the Medrash. You should know, as Bachram we sent to Chaim Kanievsky, we sent him. We wrote down the Medrash and sent him where's the place? He writes back down the saying Yaakov. That's on this page. This is okay. So, what was the question? They want to know what is the pasuk that's Hakel Ba Yosef, the most all-inclusive pasuk in the entire Torah. So, if you have a chance, what are you going to say that pasuk is? If you had to choose one pasuk in the entire Torah, what's it going to be? So, many people are going to shout out. You can answer. Go for it. You can give a.
Oh, the Rambam says that pasuk Timna is a
Right. We've written about that as well. But okay, so Shema Yisrael. That's going to be one beautiful answer. So I guess if you're saying it's just as chashuv as Shema Yisrael.
Well, it's just as important because it's in the pasuk of Timna Haisa Peleg. It seems like an innocuous pasuk. Rambam says just as important as Shema Yisrael. There's no more important.
So the Yerushalmi writes that Ben Azai was asked this question, and he said, "Zeh Sefer told us Adam, now Adam Mitzalmeinu." The idea that a person is created with a tzelem alakim, which I guess in today's day and age has faded. People don't really understand it. They're destroying their tzelem. So you see that this is like a beautiful pasuk, but we're going to come to that shortly. So I guess if you're in the elevator and you have that 1 second to tell a person something, you say to them this pasuk. Ben Zayma says the pasuk is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Seems quite obvious. Ben Namas, he said the pasuk is V'ahavta L'reacha Kamecha. Again, this is something that I would expect.
Hill said, right?
Hill says that Klal Gadol B'Torah, right?
On foot.
On foot, and Reb Akiva also, right? Similar Okay, so again, we have Ben Zoyma saying Shema Yisrael. We have Ben Anas telling us V'haftu Kamaycha, and we had also saw from Ben Azai the idea of Tzelem Elokim and Bereshis. Comes along Ben Pazi. It says, I have an even better pasuk. Matzazik pasuk kol b'yoyser, even more inclusive. And what is it? This week's parsha, as a keves echad tasa b'abeker, as a keves hasheni tasa ben arbaim. Amad Rav Pliny al Raglov.
Reb?
Pliny al
I
Raglov.
don't know who it is.
No. Some variations that wrote Amar Rebbe al Raglov, but if you look at the original, it says Amar Reb Pliny al Raglov. Someone stood up and said, Halacha ki ben Pazi, halacha is like Hashem ben Pazi, that the pasuk is a keves echad tasa b'abeker. So now, if we look at these psukim, I mean, what's going on? I understand there's the idea. Oh, nice to see you. I understand there's the idea of Tzelem Elokim. Okay, but if you ask a yid, right, the last pasuk, the first last thing a person says before the nifter, says Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. It's the idea that Kutz B'richu Chadu, the Eibusher runs the world, and there's nothing else in the world. All the animams, everything that you expect from Shema Yisrael, the Kindlech saying it. That's what I would think is the quintessential pasuk of the Torah. And to give this idea of Yichel HaBorei to a person, to tell them that everything you see out there is all baloney, it's only Einay Lavadai, that's something I can hear that you want to go ahead and impart to a person. I can hear that. It could be that Shema Yisrael will resonate with them. If you want to tell me that it's V'ahavtu Re'echa Kamecha, that's something that people in the world, they understand, that resonates with them. They understand this concept of V'ahavta. Could be they have a flawed understanding of it, but they understand you have to be nice to other people. And a deeper way of understanding is that Shema Yisrael is the idea of bin Adam Lamakim versus V'ahavtu Re'echa Kamecha is the idea of bin Adam L'Chavera. So some people we see them with the brand when it comes to davening, but when it comes to bin Adam L'Chavera, it's not so stark. And other people, it's not the way around. But the Torah learning is the Torah and Avodah is not so much, but the V'ahavtu Re'echa Kamecha is a lot. There's different types of people. But what's this third idea of Ben Pazi of Esakeves Echad Tasa B'abeker? L'chari has no shaykhis at all to the discussion. You're going to tell the person about the animals that are being slaughtered, shechted. They don't know what you're talking about. Rashi at the beginning of this week's parsha. So we're gonna work through two basic ideas of it. Rashi at the beginning of this week's parsha. So Rashi talks about the pasuk says V'yidaber Moshe el Hashem leima. Yivked Hashem alekei aruchos, lekol basa ish aleida. Moshe Rabbeinu is right before his B'tir, talking to the Eibusher Kaviyachol. In the conversation, he says, "I'm going to go away. I'm going to be nifter. Don't leave Klal Yisrael without anybody. They shouldn't be left. Katzoyin Hashem lem roya. They need to have. So you ever see a shepsel that's just wandering with nobody keeping it in check? It ends up who knows where. And Klal Yisrael, you're going to leave Yiddish kinder on the streets without anybody watching. Chalila, what's going to happen? The street is a very accepting place. Right? Everyone's accepted on the streets. There's room for everybody. So Chas v'Shalom, they have to have a leader. So HaKadosh Baruch says, no problem. Yeshua ben Nun. Next pasuk. Next parsha. V'yidaber Hashem Moshe leimer, Tzavez b'nei Yisrael v'amartu lehem es korban lachmi l'Yishai. V'ech nichochi tishbu l'akriv liv ma'adam. Keves echad tasa b'abeker, keves hasheni tasa ben arbaim. Rashi's motive. Rashi's bothered with the kasha over here. What shaykhis does this have to the previous parsha in the Torah? What shaykhis? It seems to be one discussion is about the leader of Klal Yisrael leaving, and then the next one is Korbanos. Then says, "Bring me Korbanos." So Rashi writes, and he's quoting from a Sifri. We're first going to read the Sifri inside. Before reading Rashi, I'm just going to quote it from the Sifri itself. Sifri is over here in parshas pinchas. V'yidaber Hashem Moshe leimer, Tzavez b'nei Yisrael es korban l'achmid lo menemar. Levishu omer asher yotz lefneim, asher yovel lefneim. Marshal David Demis. He says a marshal. Lemelech shoyse ishtoi nifteres min olam. There was a king. The wife, the queen, was dying. So she comes and she starts talking to the husband, to the melech, and she says, I'm going to die now. My kids are going to be left without a mother. Kindlech need the mother. They need the mother. What are you going to do? How are you going to take care of them? You have to make sure to look after them. So she says to him, I'm begging you, be careful. Watch out for my children. So Amrullah, so now the Melech says back. Listen to this answer. The Melech says back. You're talking about the Kindle? Who's gonna make me lunch every day? Who's gonna make me supper every day? And he made 2 meals a day. Where am I getting it from? Tishmeru, right? The lamb should be watered. It should be taken care of day in and day out. Kevas echad tasa b'boker. So kevas hasheni tasa b'rabayim. I need meals also. Says the Eibusher, you're talking about you, Moshe Rabbeinu, dying, and Klal Yisrael needs a leader. What's going to happen to me? Who's going to take care of me? This is what Rashi says in the conversation over here. Sorry, this is what the Sifri says. The conversation was that the queen is dying. She turns to her husband and she says, "Look after the kindler." And the husband turns back. The mouth turns back and says, "Yeah, I have to be looked after also." So now at least we understand the connection between the psukim. This is the smichas of psukim, the juxtaposition. That first I had the psukim all about Moshe Rabbeinu leaving, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu responding to Korbanos. So good, we have the shaykhs. But what was the smooth? I mean, it's a funny thing, right? The mother's gonna die, so the father says, "Let me worried about me. What about me?" And I understand Moshe Rabbeinu, why he needs to look after Klal Yisrael over here. So many times they got in trouble. So many times they got messed up along the way where they made mistakes. They were a sign that started wandering. They were in trouble. The wolf was coming after them. But now Moshe Rabbeinu is going to leave. He says, make sure there's somebody to watch them. So they shouldn't keep on angering you. They shouldn't keep on messing up. They shouldn't keep on doing things where Klal Yisrael, because Baruch Chalila wants to say, maybe they shouldn't be here. So Moshe Rabbeinu is gerech. He's right for asking this. Because Baruch's response is, but what about me? It's the conversation, they don't equal. We're going to come to Rashi shortly. So the Maral writes over here, a beautiful idea. Many have said it different ways, but the way the Maral writes is in Sivas Olam. He says that Ben Pazi, when he got up and he answered, that the quintessential pasuk in the Torah is a sakevas echad tasa b'boker. What was he saying? So for people who learn Daf Yomi is actually not so tough because every single day you're learning something else. And if you miss today, you have tomorrow. Especially now we're learning Sufis, Shas Cotton, right? So this tremendous amount of sugya after sugya throughout the Masechta. If a person is doing the same thing over and over again, that's a chiddush, that you're doing the exact same thing over and over and over again without losing a geshmak, without losing the brand. The pitfall of the Korban Talmud was that they would lose the brand, chas v'shalom, that you're going to do the same thing over and over again twice daily. How do you do that with an excitement over and over again? And that was the chiyuv that they were given to go ahead and do it with an excitement. Comes along Ben Pazi, and he says, I'm not arguing on Ben Zayma's idea of Shema Yisrael. Person, his avodas Hashem of Ben Adon Lamakam. And I'm not arguing on the idea that Ben Anas told us about V'aftu Kamocha, Ben Adon Chaver. Whatever it is that you choose to do, make sure you're consistent about it. Make sure that you're going over and over again, that you're doing it with the same geshmak. You're checking yourself, am I doing it with the same brand? Am I putting on my tefillin today with the same brand that I did when I was a 13-year-old bacher, a bar mitzvah bacher? The Shem Yishmuel writes that there's one darga, one level of miyala b'Hashem, but the Gersa darga, the higher level is miyakum imkem kadsha. You can get to, everyone climbs, everyone has a fleeting moment of inspiration. And we fly up. But what happens a moment later? Are we still there or do we fall down? So that's miyala b'Hashem is one thing, but miyakum is to be consistent about it. So this first teretz says the Maharal, this idea that a person has to be consistent, is to find the geshmak in life. And once we understand that, so coming back, the Eibusher says, they're going to serve me, of course. They're going to have moments. But I want it to be consistent. I want them, the relationship to be consistent over and over again. So therefore, I'm asking that they bring Korbanos twice daily. Like this, they're always connected to me. And by always being connected, that shaykhis remains strong. That's the moral. in Likutei Sichos, there's in Yud Gimel, he writes an incredible idea. And I want to just explain that I said this over once in a shir. Somebody came over to me after the shir and says to me, I was frum, I went off the derech, and today I'm frum again. But if I would have known about this idea, if somebody would have told this to me when I was a child, it would never gone off, because life would have had a complete different meaning. And you'll hear about this in a moment why. Rashi, we mentioned the Sifri. Rashi quotes this a little bit differently. The Sifri we said was, what was the story? It's Yishmael, king and a queen. The queen is dying. She turns to her husband. She says, "Who's going to look after the children?" Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi writes that the story was of a bas melech, that came. Melech shoys in the first. Sorry. I don't have Rashi in front of me. But Rashi says, "Oh, here I have it." Of a bas melech that was nifter, and right before she was nifter, she turns to her husband. Now her husband's not the king. Her husband's a prince, perhaps. It's an Adam, right? David HaMelech was a common person, a commoner, a chashuv person. Came from Malchus, from a regular common person, a nar, as he called him. He had no claim on Malchus whatsoever. So the Bas Melech, the princess, turns to her husband and says, "What's going to be? I'm going to be nifter. Who's going to look after the kids? Who's going to take care of them?" And he says back, "Well, who's going to take care of me?" Now, what's the difference in the two mashals? The difference is very clear. A melech, the queen is there or not there, the melech has what to eat all day long. He has many people running, the show continues, many people are over there running back and forth. The melech doesn't need the wife to bring. It could be she's nice, she brings him a kugel once in a while, right? She watches, and could be she even tells him not to drink so much vodka, right? But the point is, the melech doesn't need her per se to run the day-to-day inside. The queen adds a nice touch. But the bas melech, without her husband, she's lost, and without her, he's lost. So now Rashi somehow or another is telling us a different story here. It's interesting. Rashi, this is the way it's written in the Sichos, is that why is Rashi changing the moshel over? It could be Rashi had a different girsa, but Rashi also had the prevalent girsa of the Sifri that we have in front of us. So why is he choosing a different one? Now the pshat is that Rashi's using this other girsa in the Sifri because he's trying to bring out. Yeah, there's definitely many different gears in the Sifri, right? Not that there's different gears in the Sifri, just the way it was quoted, the way it was written down. Some wrote it this way, some wrote it that way. But also he says, I think that there was also a Mechilta that said the same thing as well. So he's able to take from there as well. In Tanchuma brings the same mashal, but he brings it as a bas melech instead. He brings it with sheshvin and the bas melech. The point is that Rashi chose to change the mashal of the Sifri, but then Rashi says this is Sifri. Why is he doing that? The pshat is that Rashi is explaining that this is what we need to take out of the Sifri. What is that? There's an idea when it comes to loving somebody. There's two reasons why a person loves, right? Either I love you because I need you. I love you because I need you, which in the vernacular is called ahava shetluya bedavar. Mishnah. I love you because I need you. That says the Mishnah is ain't a miskayamis. It doesn't last. Why not? Because the second I need is gone. When we need to love the person, right? The person's going in and supporting. The second the support is no longer there, or the second they no longer need the support, the relationship is finished. Then there's a hava she'enetli b'davar. I need you because I love you. I need you because I love you. That means I don't need anything from you, but I love you so much that burns so much within me that creates a tremendous need.
There's no love if you don't need somebody.
There's no what?
There's no love if you don't need this person.
No love.
If you don't need a person, there's no way to love them. Can there be a love
So
without?
then what's we saying? That means that there's a need within you to love him.
Need.
No, let's say I love a person very, very much, but I don't need him. I don't need her.
No,
Right,
but
that's
you
what
have
I'm
to,
saying.
that's what he's saying.
But then it creates a need for you that because you love her so much, you
The
need.
first step could be as a hava. But from there is born a tremendous need, a desire for the person. A husband and wife, they love each other, but it becomes so strong that they need each other. Even if she's no longer, two older people. They're no longer doing anything for each other.
That means that a king can never love his queen. Because he never needs it, because he's got all kinds of other resources.
So it's interesting. Over here, Kadosh Baruch Hu in the mashal, what's the mashal? Moshe Rabbeinu is the mama, the mother of Klal Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu is the melech. In that mashal, which is the way the Sifri brought it, you're touching it exactly on the good over here. The way the Sifri brought it, in that mashal, the melech doesn't really need us. So Rashi says, let's bring this down to a level that we understand. Not the melech, but the bas melech and the prince or the son-in-law, where there is a true need over there. So in a way that we can understand it. The way that we can understand. But this, we're saying a big thing over here. What we're saying now is that Kadosh Baruch Hu in this world doesn't need a thing. Kadosh Baruch Hu has everything. Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu is infinite, we're finite. Kadosh Baruch Hu is infinite, what does he need? But v'avisa tehillah. We say we're going to say it pretty soon. V'avisa tehillah. Kadosh Baruch Hu desired, he wanted praise from us. He needs us to daven him. Doesn't need that. Because Baruch Hu created this need within. Hashem, in his perfection, made this need to want us. Me'enesh kisas kirenu is an idea that Kadosh Baruch Hu looks down at this world, this world that what are we? What can we add to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? We can't add anything to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, in Hashem's absolute perfection, he chose to carve out a relationship with Klal Yisrael. So Hashem said, even though I don't need you, but because I love you, now there's a need. And that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose to make that relationship with us. And that means that now that Hashem wants to have that, and that's also the idea of Lada B'Tachtainim, Hashem wants to have a dira down over here with us. He doesn't need that. His Baruch Hu's palace is, how do you understand what that palace is even like? There's nothing in here. You make the nicest shul in the world. The nicest dira down over here in the world. It's nothing compared to what His Baruch Hu has upstairs. He says, no, I actually want to have a dira with you down there. He wants to have a dira with us. It's an incredible thing. It's something that we can't understand, but Hashem says, but that's what I want. Hashem is an idea that we do have the ability to add something like Baruch Hu, whatever that means. Whatever that means, kaviyach, right?
Who created the need within him to love us.
Yeah. And when the Gemara says Kadesh Tamlichuni Aleichem, Hashem is a melech. Yeah, but the last melech b'layam. Why? There was a melech without us. He was a melech before we came. But the tachlis was to have a people that should be mamlechem. Hashem doesn't need that. But Hashem created that rotzen. Hashem created that desire to have that connection to us. Now, what this means today is that now that Hashem set up that need, and we're not doing this justice, but now that Hashem set up that need, that means there's no such thing as a person in this world that's useless. Why? Because you turn to a person and you say, Hashem loves you. Are you giving him what that relationship requires? Are you feeding the relationship? Or are you just going to let it go with nothing? The worst things a person can ever hear is that I am useless, I'm worthless, I'm nothing. No one needs me. It's not true, because Baruch Hu needs you. Hashem wants you. So when I daven, when I say tefillah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm giving Hashem what He wants. It's a kevaz echad tasav b'boker. Kevaz Hashem tasav ben abayim. The 2 meals a day. We eat every day. Kaviyach HaKadosh Baruch Hu eats also. What does He eat? Eat our tefillahs. Right? The tefillahs that we have were connected the Korbanos to take them. That's what they were. So coming back to Ben Zayma, Ben Anas, Ben Pazi, of course there's the idea of Shema Yisrael and there's the idea of Ahavta L'recha Kamocha. But the greatest thing that you can ever tell a person is, and this is, Yiddishkeit is a religion where you're needed, where you're a something. You're not a nobody, you're a somebody. The Baruch is not looking for great people to do great things, looking for the average regular person on the street and the person who thinks he's a nothing and says, I have a need for you also. When a person walks out and he says, I'm needed, I can do something, I can do something, that's the greatest feeling in the world. You give a person a job, right? The Rambam talks about giving people jobs. But not to, you're not to just give a person to collect stones right around the tree just to keep going around in circles. Not a job. Person feels useless and he knows you're doing him a favor, but you're trying to find something for him to do. No, a real job where a person feels that they do something, they accomplish something. So the greatest thing, the pasuk hakol v'yoseh, the greatest thing you can ever tell a person is you're needed and you're wanted. And that's the difference. That's why Rashi goes ahead and changes from the melech to the bas melech, from the malka to the bas melech. Why? Because now it's a relationship where it's based on need. The melech didn't need anything. But klap ba'as, Hashem says, I'm going to look at you with a need. And if we can feel that need from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I need you and I want you, then we have to go ahead and give it back. So I felt this was very appropriate, right after my grandmother was nifted, because my grandmother lived this life where it was day in and day out. She felt she was talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and she felt there was a conversation. She felt that there was a relationship. And that's, it should be Ilan Shmas. So again, hopefully this was something that was an eye-opener for us. Sorry?
The famous story with the Hashem used to go around asking simple people how they are. And they said, Baruch Hashem, believe the Rebbe, and he saw this cause a big nachashur for the Rebbe. So once he walked into a school where there was a parshas. The parshas is a parshas that this guy was totally. He fasted all day. He slept in this medrash. His avodah. He asked every year. The smachtel we gave the gesund, like and the children, the parshas. This guy didn't answer him. He was sitting and learning, and he showed the Hashem to the door. Get out of here. And the Hashem said, "Was nimmt ihr weg? Kaviyachol the Neibishn sein parshas? Where are you taking away the livelihood of Neibishn?" Looks at him. What are you talking about? They told him, state and tell him, Va'ata Kodesh, you Eibishter, you're Halik means you're above the world, higher. Yeshe, what brings Eibishter down? When you sit, come down. Also in Yiddish, they say, was this still means Vosa Ben Panosa. Yeshe, Tehil is Yisrael, that's to the Yidden's Tehillah. They have to thank the Eibishter. He says, it's actually going to
I'll bring the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbi Lowy in one second.
What?
Oh,
Yeah.
I went to Rabbi Lowy and I told him I read about Shem Tov and I don't understand. Shem Tov says that there was a big zero one time. The Zar said that all the families in town